Welcome back to the Marianne Hickman Show. Today's episode, we just finished filming it, is with Jason Raitz. Now, this guy, we met online, and he was so generous to just have me as a guest on his show, speak with people, and we really just hit it off. And so I got this text message from him probably, I don't know, just a few days ago, not even a week ago. And he said, hey, listen, I live in Florida, but I'm going to be in town, and I would love to meet up for breakfast. And I thought, oh my gosh, let's do you one better. Let's have you guest on my show. I would love to have you come be as a guest on my show. And we talk about everything from speaking on stage, and we talk about building courses. And at the very end of the episode, it gets to this really beautiful, heartfelt space of what it's like to raise a family and communicate with your kids and do all of this as a parent, especially while you're watching your kids grow up. And I'll admit, we do have some cry parts there at the end. It's really kind of beautiful. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. Check it out. So my sister loves Wawa. She lives like solo on her own, and she's like, I get my Thanksgiving dinner from there. I get like
Yep. My 22-year-old lives off Wawa. Like
I don't understand it yet.
He just loves it. I mean, it's just awesome. I was just on the phone with somebody this morning. A speaker called, a fellow speaker friend, and he's like, what are you doing in Salt Lake City? And I was telling him, I'm like, but I'm going to record a podcast, Marianne. Have you heard of her? And he's like, no. So I sent him your podcast.
Oh, you're so nice.
And I was like, you gotta listen to this. This is great stuff. It's great stuff. So most of your podcasts, are they in person?
I love to do it in person.
Yeah.
It is my favorite to do it in person. When it's better to do it over Zoom and it's the only way to do it, then hell yeah, we'll do it over Zoom.
Yeah.
But in person, there's just this dynamic when we're right here, you know? So
great.
I'm stoked that you came out all the way here for this. Like, this is the best.
I think it's great. There's another speaker that in Salt Lake City. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Jason Hewlett.
I know the name.
Jason Hewlett. He NSA Hall of Fame speaker.
Yeah.
It did a ton of stuff in Vegas, like entertaining type stuff.
Oh, okay.
Voices and singing. And,
no kidding.
Yeah. And so now he's got his signature talk is called The Promise, but he just went on tour with Tucker Carlson.
Shut up.
Yeah. The story, I gotta reread it again on LinkedIn because I was just telling my son.
Yeah.
But his dad was talking, I think, with Tucker's manager. Like at a restaurant.
Huh.
Just an older guy that struck up a conversation like older guys do.
Every old guy is named Alan, by the way. I decided this last night.
Yeah. And then started telling about his son. You know what you need on your tour on Tucker Carlson is my son. He's an entertainer of the year, blah, blah. So he did it.
Shut up.
So Jason's getting tons of hate.
Bring it.
But he was just like, you know what? So what? Where's the Patriots? Let's go. You know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, So he's like, man, I just flew out. I was like, no worries. But when, we're here so short, we'll go up and then we'll speak at the country club. And then I go to Dallas tonight.
Holy cow, you are on a circuit.
Trying.
My gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, 23 was a tough year.
Yeah,
so
well,
like,
for everybody.
Like in the hole. So we're really trying to dig out. We're really trying to dig out. So learning from people like you, people from Jason, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, man, if I could steal you for another half of today, I would take you over to the X Room. This is a get-together with, one day I'll introduce you to Sean Finnegan. I've had him on my show, but he is a master connector, and he does this X Room thing where it's like once a quarter. Uh-huh. By invitation only. He has no problem filling the room because everyone wants to be around Sean. But in that room, there's like, the Garrett Gundersons. There's Maya Nicole. She's got 250,000 followers on Instagram. She's an amazing lady. We've got the owner of PC Laptops. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's the Bitcoin extraordinaire. And that room is full of like the coolest people. And he said, I have 2 rules. You have to have an entrepreneurial spirit, and you cannot be an asshole. And I was like, done. Let's go.
Absolutely.
So next time you're in town,
okay,
I'll be like, hey, this is when the next X Room is. I have to have Sean send you an invitation because I'm not allowed to invite people. But
perfect.
Hey, what's up? Marianne Hickman here. Listen, I'm interrupting my own show because I want to give you something. Now, you guys all want to get on more stages. I've got a free resource for you of stages that are just clamoring for guests. They need guests on a daily, weekly, sometimes monthly basis. This is my podcast database. Now, what I'm going to do is have you go to mariannehickman.com/database. Once you put in your information there, I'm going to send this to you totally for free. Open up this database. You're going to click through it, find the next podcast that's relevant to your topic, hit the application button, show up on their podcast, get in front of their people, and share your content. Remember, mariannehickman.com/database. Let's get you unlocked.
And if you guys are over in Florida, looking for something to do.
We
Absolutely.
love Florida. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm going to be down there. One of my students is just landed the Turning Point stage. Right? Have you
Wow.
heard of that?
Turning Point?
Yeah.
Is Turning Point what I'm thinking about Turning Point? Yeah, with Charlie Kirk and
It's a big, that's
massive.
the one.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know it.
So she's speaking on that stage.
Get out.
Right? In December. And she's got, her presentation gives me chills.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. So she's all about, I don't know, you probably heard of her actually. So Centner Academy is a big school down in Miami.
Yeah.
So it's Layla.
Get out.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So she's like the bee's knees. I love what she's doing. She's, all about making these schools a safer place for kids and a safer place for parents. And she's like, screw the government system. I'm just going to make my own. Yeah. And she's not afraid to say something about it.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah.
So if you then are you doing more coaching than speaking? Is it 50-50? What is your journey been?
Oh gosh, I love doing both.
Yeah.
I love speaking. I love going on tour. I love I've got a buddy of mine, Keaton Hoskins, who was just on the show, and he's like, we got to get these events going, and so I'm hoping to share a bunch of stages with him in the future. Fingers crossed, if it's a right fit and all that. So I love speaking primarily; it's my passion. But when I get the right person in front of me to coach and train, I always use this analogy. Have you seen Dead Poet Society? I think we talked about this before, right? Yeah. When you get them in the room and you can peel away the plaster and you're like, oh my gosh, there's your message. The world needs to hear about this. Like that's just as fun as getting on stage.
100%. Well, yeah, I made a switch somewhere in my 30s. Seems like a long time ago. Like, holy cow. But my 20s, like, I was the greatest thing that ever walked on the planet. My head would not fit through doorways. And then
we all were, though.
Yeah, and then somewhere in my 30s, like, that switch happens where you love to help other people succeed.
Yeah.
And so if I could have been on that journey sooner,
it
would have been amazing. Like, oh my gosh, because it's so powerful, it's so profound, and I mean, it's so fulfilling that you're like, people don't even need to know you had a part in it at all. It's just like,
I don't even care.
Go and win. Win.
When I shove those people on stage, a testimonial is nice. Don't get me wrong,
100%.
right? But I like if you can just sit there and like, that's my student.
Yep.
Like,
yep. And I'm in that season right now where I'm trying to balance because the testimonials are life.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
I got an email last night from it wasn't even to me. It was. So a company sponsoring me to speak at an event for this other company.
Yeah.
So it's so wild. A lot of my speaking is done in the financial world. And banks, they don't have to pay for things because other companies will sponsor them.
Yep.
No wonder banks have so much money. It's amazing. So this company is sponsoring me for this bank's thing.
Yeah.
And the guy said something to the effect of, Jason's a master communicator. He'll take these complex thoughts and put them into simple, your people. And then at the end, he's like, after an hour, I only feel like a few seconds went by. I'm like, this is like the greatest testimony I've ever heard. And I was like, I gotta share it. I gotta cut this. Because,
Yeah.
So it's just that like that give and take of like, I don't want to seem like, I'm the asshole, but but you have to tell people like, hey, this is, I exist to help leaders transform their communication skills.
Yeah. Well,
like that's what I do.
And then those testimonials it's not an ego stroke anymore.
Right.
It used to be, but now it's just like, I call it my feather. I use feathers as indicators that I'm going in the right direction, just like Forrest Gump, right?
Yes.
So if I can get a good testimonial, I'm like, okay, I don't need it for my ego, but I'm like, now my mission is getting fulfilled. Like I'm doing the right thing. Thank you, God, for that.
Yeah.
Well,
and in the midst, if I can take care of my family with doing something that I love while helping somebody else do something they love.
Yeah.
Like, win, win, win.
Yeah. That's the best.
In the words of Michael Scott from The Office, it's a win, win, win. It's not a win, lose, lose. Win, win, win. Like it's just amazing.
I need to have Michael Scott in this room. We love The Office. Like every night we go to bed watching either Brooklyn Nine-Nine or The Office.
We've just been watching back through Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and we love The Office, Parks and Rec. I mean, there was a run.
Yes.
They were a run of such great shows. I mean, We're doing a series on our podcast right now called Communication in the Office.
You're kidding me.
And so we played on it a little bit, you know, and we're trying to like, you know, we haven't gone as deep as we should, but we have different speakers talking about different things. And
what?
you can learn so much about leadership and communication skills from just watching The Office.
Okay, because it's usually the example of the worst of. So how are you putting this in your podcast?
But there are great moments. You know, you've got the what comes to mind? Michael Scott at the gym, you know, where Pam walks off to get the paper. And she walks off and he looks at the kid that he was talking to and he's like, you know, she really is a wonderful person. You know, but I would never tell her to her face. And, you know, Oscar's sitting there. He's like, why would you not tell her? You know, because so many leaders, especially when it comes to encouragement.
Yeah.
I think most of us, our encouragement tanks are running on empty. And I don't know anybody who's like, no, you don't really need to encourage me. Like, I'm okay.
Oh, yeah, no.
Like, my tank is full. But
my husband says that every once in a while. I will tell you. See? He's going to chime in now. No,
I love it.
Shoot. Damn it.
I love it. But, you know, like I'll take, you know, different examples like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's too many of us. We hold it back when we should be filling up other people's tanks because our words have that power. Yeah. I mean, that's just the crazy part of it. So, yeah, I love The Office. I broke my left ankle in 2008. And pins and needles and screws, and I was on the couch, and my brother was like, hey, you need to start watching the show. And then from 2008 on, like, it has been, I've helped many minutes on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
You're like, I finished Netflix.
Yeah. And then the Peacock stuff, though, where it's like a different show because they've added all of the behind the scenes stuff that I didn't even see on the DVDs. If we go back to that far. So here I'm getting like the most excited about The Office. Like I just, man.
It's a good show.
I did reach out to a couple of them because I got an IMDb account. So then I had better access to actors.
Yeah.
Because then you know.
Wait, you can connect with them through IMDb?
You can see who their management is, who they're this, who they're that.
No kidding.
Yeah. Little hack from behind the scenes. And so you know, I emailed a couple. I emailed Rainn Wilson's management. I emailed Kevin's. I don't know his real name. I should know his real name. Kevin Malone.
Good old it's probably really Kevin.
I can't remember. Brian. That's right, Brian.
Yeah.
I actually emailed Pam and or Jenna and Angela because they have a great podcast.
They have an incredible podcast.
And so,
I love that show.
You know, a lot of those when you go after those kind of whales, they're mostly looking for like downloads in the hundreds of thousands.
Sure.
If they're going to be on a podcast.
Sure.
So, you know, I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep trying.
Dude, when you do, let me know because I'll be the second one in line. I'm going to piggyback off you.
I love it.
I would love to have John Krasinski in that chair. That guy does so much magic. Oh, you got opinions. You got feels. What? Like,
oh, no.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from like Man Crush to, you know, would just love to sit at his feet. Like, I mean, he just seems like such a wholesome, decent, amazing human being.
Yeah, especially with the movies that he's creating and the whatever he's directing. Like, I love The Quiet Place. I don't know how much they can do with this one concept. I've seen all three and I love it. I'm like, all right, John, what are you going to do with the next version of not being able to say anything?
Yep.
Like
100%. Well, just his relationship with Emily Blunt, and as much as us wanted it to be Jenna in real life, you know.
But Emily's amazing.
Goodness gracious!
Oh my gosh!
Just how it's so refreshing sometimes how they talk about each other, you know, in interviews, how they always refer to each other. Mm-hmm. I was interviewing an amazing woman recently on my podcast last year. Very accomplished. I mean, very wise, brilliant woman.
Yeah,
been married a long time, but she just kept little digs on her husband. You know, little put downs. And I was just like, you know, I was like, okay, like you can choose that with your communication. That's why I'm so passionate about speak with or speak at. You know, when we speak with people, we are breathing life into them. Mm-hmm. We're speaking words of hope. It's like an oxygen tank. You know, it's like we're giving them momentum. And then when we speak at them, I like to say you become an at-hole because you're just like
that's my new favorite.
You know,
to be an at-hole.
Stop being an at-hole because you're overly aggressive. You're forceful. You're sucking the life out of people. Yeah. You're you know, some people we forget that we think that communication is informing, spewing, dumping, telling. Instead, communication actually is sharing. Mm-hmm. The heart of communicating is a connection. And if there's no connection, when we do those things that suck the life out of the room, suck the life out of people, when we speak at them, it's like puts up this wall between us.
Mm-hmm.
And some leaders get away with it because for whatever reason, people respond to fear. Like they'll like chop to it and they'll respond to fear.
That's how Goggins operates. He's like, I'm going to make you do 5 million push-ups with your broken ankles.
Yeah,
like,
do it now.
Okay.
I was at a Patrick Beth David conference.
Oh, yeah.
A week and a half ago.
Was it just last week? Because I know he was at a conference like a few days ago. What is it? Clever Summit.
Okay, no, he did his own. It was a week and a half ago.
Okay.
The Vault conference in West Palm Beach.
Wow.
6,000 leaders. He had The Rock there.
Oh, brilliant. He's another guy I would love to get to know.
The interview was amazing. Like The Rock, I mean, Will Guidara. Have you heard of Will Guidara?
I haven't, no.
He wrote a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. He had the #1 restaurant in the world, 11 Madison Park in New York City. And the hospitality stories in this book of what they did to just elevate the service of their customers. I mean, it will blow your mind. And so you got to look up Will Guidara.
Yeah, for real.
Absolutely amazing. So I'm at this conference, and basically Patrick Beth David is just, he was in born in Iran. His parents fled during all the stuff in the 80s. Went to Germany, eventually came over here, and he's basically built this media empire. He did it off the backs. He built an insurance company. He started, he started in sales for Bally's Total Fitness.
I remember
Bally's.
them.
Do you remember Bally's? And
It's right up there with Barbizon. Do you remember that?
I love it. I know we might be showing our age at this point.
That's all right.
I mean,
let him look.
but he was like just, on the phone trying to sell memberships. And then that led to insurance. And then that led to owning a store and then 5 stores and 10 stores and 200 stores, built this empire, then sold it for $1 gazillion. And then he started a podcast about 10 years ago, now the YouTube. And so now he dips his foot into politics and business and branding. And anyways, it was basically him for like 15 hours. You register and you get a playbook about that thick.
Oh my
And it's
gosh.
just his business playbook.
It's a fire hose.
And he just goes at it. There are times though where he's got that Goggins where he's just like, "Hey leader, it's on you. Like the sales aren't going well, pick up the damn phone."
Well, there's room for that though.
There is. Absolutely. There are those moments. So there are the moments that the leaders that take that like by 20 and who constantly have to be through fear, manipulation, overly aggressiveness, But then you can still get those amazing results with speaking with people when you communicate in healthy ways. Because then that way, like the amount of the race that they'll run with you is just powerful.
Oh yeah. Because you're running next to them.
Right. Instead of being forced. And that's why I love like your role coaching people. I know for me, I found out about you online. Then I reached out and I'm like, oh my goodness, can you please be in the podcast? And then
I was so honored because I love what you're doing.
Well, I started listening to more stuff and then I love the resources. And then your husband, graciously sat down, we did a Zoom call and walked me through some of your business stuff. Leaders like you guys who are, pouring into other people, who are teaching people, like that's just amazing. Because too often we live in a world where it's like,
what can I get?
It's all mine. Yeah. What can I get? I don't want to help anybody else because I got to get ahead. I got to be the one out front.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That's gross to me.
Yeah. It's amazing. First book I read. I mean, the classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie was onto something 100+ years ago.
Yeah. Did you read the updated version for the digital age?
I have not.
It's I mean, those books are always worth a reread.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's one of my canon of books that I love to read.
Oh yeah.
That's right up there with me with like Extreme Ownership and have you read Kim Scott's Radical Candor?
No.
Oh, you would love it.
You're the second person who's told me I need to read this.
There it is. Second witness.
person. Yep, I gotta pick it up.
Okay, so you've been running your podcast.
Yep.
For how many? 660 episodes now?
We're 160 episodes in. I think today's 160.
That's awesome.
So
what's the Tell me about what made you get started. What's the biggest thing you learned? And here's why, because I love to talk to people with people. I'm going to fix it.
Love it.
I love, and maybe it is a little bit forceful when I'm saying you've got to start a show because your message deserves to be out there. It's so easy to start a podcast and you're 160 episodes in. Like, would you recommend that everybody start a podcast if they're an entrepreneur? What have you learned in the past 160 episodes?
Well, go back to your force thing. I think there's a healthy side of force because sometimes people are like, well, I can't speak at people. No, we can be bold with our words. We can challenge people. We can get in their face when we need to. I mean, that's all part of healthy communication. It's when, our words attack to such a place that it literally sucks the life out of their soul.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be the difference, because I think a coach's voice in someone's life, a coach needs that.
But they have permission.
They have permission.
That's the biggest
That's
difference.
the difference. Yes.
You know?
So yeah, we started the podcast because, I'm meeting more and more introverted leaders, or leaders who are like, I don't have time to have conversations, or leaders who are like, I'm not a people person, but I love to learn. I love to listen. And in my 20s, I was a 90% extrovert, 10% introvert. My almost 50s, I am probably almost flopped. Like I'm way much more introvert than I am extrovert now.
Yeah.
Like going, last week.
Says the presenter from stage.
Yeah, right. Who are so many comedians, right? Are insane.
I've heard this.
Insane introverts.
Yeah.
You get them off stage and it's like, hey, I'm over here. Hey, where are you at? Like, look at me. But on stage, they are alive and bright and they pull everybody in.
Yeah.
So, I was like, okay, can we provide a resource? Because I think so many leaders take their communication skills for granted. I do. 90% of our day, research tells us we communicate through our words, our tone, how our body language is when we talk to somebody. We're writing, we're typing, we're shooting videos, 90%. But how much of that do we actually say, of that 90%, I'm going to invest some time to improve my communication skills? Not many people are actively, we're paying for a golf coach, we're paying for yoga, we're paying for, all these different things.
Hulu, Paramount.
Yeah.
Peacock.
All of these things. But something that we do the majority of our day that has the potential to drastically change our lives because the right words, right? They open up doors, they close deals, they heal relationships, they reconcile marriage. It's like, okay, communication is pretty powerful. So we started the podcast because we're like, what if we could interview freaking amazing leaders that maybe aren't the Simon Sinek's, the Goggins of the world, the John Krasinski's that, maybe, I can't reach right now.
Yet.
But yet. Thank you very much. Yet. I had an amazing woman on my podcast last month, Dr. Anna Milliken, who talked about mindset and just how the word yet changes everything.
Yeah. It's a powerful 3-letter word.
I can't lose weight. I haven't lost what I need to yet. But I will. I haven't written the book yet, but yet adding that yet. Whew. So anyways, I just got to that place where I'm like, let's have those conversations. Ours are like 30 to 40 minutes, bite size. Typically, we try to have them around 4 quadrants of communication. So for us, like we want to help leaders be exceptional communicators. So what we mean by that is one-on-one. That's speaking with people. So I'm sitting over coffee, in my marriage, in my parenting, my neighbors, lead with people. So now I've got to learn how to communicate to my team. I got to learn how to communicate with my boss, with the people that I lead. How do I communicate all these ways? Present with people, which is, okay, I've got to get on stage and do a presentation, or I've got to stand up in the boardroom and do a sales pitch. And some people are, they just freak out so bad. Like,
oh, I know,
I can't ever do it.
It's so adorable.
I know. And I'm like, you can do it.
Yeah.
But we'll walk you through the steps. Jeff Henderson, great speaker, says that the microphone always leads to leadership because
I like that.
The more you stand up in front of people and talk, the more it's just amazing the influence, how it just expounds. So present with people and then online with people, which is, how many of us are communicating online?
It's
now?
the digital stage. That's what I keep saying, right? We started online.
I know.
Like we connected
absolutely
digitally, and this digital stage, the power of your phone, of social media, this platform that is reaching millions of people. Oh my gosh, I get goosebumps just thinking about it.
I know, and everyone has that platform now.
Yep.
It's a little scary, that we do, but it's an amazing platform.
Yeah.
And so why not? I've sent one of your podcasts when you guys first started and you started talking about podcasting. I've sent that episode to many people because I've had so many people say, "Well, there's too many podcasts.
There's too many movies on Netflix. We shouldn't make anymore."
Right. Yeah. There's too many songs out there. And I'm like, there's 7 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
What is there? Like 3 million podcasts? And of those podcasts, I can't remember the exact numbers. I'm making them up. So let's go to Wikipedia. But so many of them, they barely got past the 7th episode.
Hermosi says top 1% of podcasters make it to 1% because for the sole reason that they passed episode 20.
Consistency. Yep.
Yeah.
So just keep going. That's where we started. We're like, we just want to help the leader who's going to work every day on Monday, who's an accountant, a chiropractor, an aspiring speaker who's a financial advisor. We just wanted to be able to say, hey, as you're going to work, listen to this conversation. Like this week, today's episode was with a CEO from Minnesota, Steve Blue, grew his company to $50 million.
Shoot.
He's speaking now all over the place. His whole gist is there's too many fuzzy communicators. I was like, that's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, but how many fuzzy communicators do you know who they always have to say, does that make sense?
Oh,
Does that make sense?
man.
That makes sense. And you're like, no, it doesn't make sense.
But people pleasing, they'll say yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So that's why we started our podcast. And I tell people all the time, like, there is room for your voice. Like, there is, because they'll email me all the time, or they'll say, I want to be a speaker. What do I do? And I'm like, just start speaking.
Yeah, if you want to speak more.
Yeah.
Speak more.
Yeah. And I'm a little different. So I go against the grain a little bit. And I know a lot of speaking professionals and leaders, sometimes they'll say, you got to learn how to say no, because you can't take every opportunity. And I've got myself in a lot of trouble over the years. And I think it's also helped me a ton because I've said yes 98% of the time. Because I'm just like, I want to get on every stage, every opportunity, every experience that I can, because those hone you. I mean, when you have to get on a stage at a retirement community, I almost said old folks home, whoops, in a retirement community, and you have to look out at 70-year-olds and communicate, boy, that really teaches you something.
Yeah, it does.
When you have to, I did middle schools and high school assemblies for years.
Oh,
So,
man, the circus.
When you got to stand up, my last one, this is last year, I kind of closed the door. I was in, where was I at? Peoria, Illinois. Peoria,
No kidding.
Illinois.
That's
Peoria.
Richard's old stomping grounds.
Come
he
on.
served a 2-year mission
I served
there.
a Mormon mission in Peoria.
Get out.
Yeah, so I was there.
Peoria.
I have actually lived in Peoria. That would have been summer of 2009.
Oh my gosh.
Now,
Yeah.
wild,
I love it.
little
Small
town,
world.
small
Yeah,
freckle.
little, and they've got, what's the giant industry right there? They've got the tractor,
The
Cat.
cat.
they got
Caterpillar.
Cat, yeah.
Yeah. So East Peoria, I'm doing an assembly at this middle school. It's like 600 kids. And the principal walks up and he's like, okay, everybody, we're doing an assembly today. You're going to listen. You're going to show respect. I'm like, oh gosh.
Wow. Okay.
And as I
Can you
walk,
give me a demo, please?
yeah, as I walk up to grab the microphone, there is a 6th grader in the front row that takes both of his legs and he puts both of his legs behind his head. And I'm looking at it. The principal's looking at it. 8 rows of kids are like gone because how do you not laugh at the kid who just put both legs and he's just like wiggling with his legs. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to
Bring him up.
you can't keep up with this.
No.
Like
Bring him up on stage, man.
It was awesome. It was awesome. I was like, I can't, like, everybody, let's give a hand clap. Like the flex, that was awesome. The only one that really tied that one, I'm way up because I'm from Michigan, so we use our hand. So I'm way up here doing an assembly. Way up here. I was born and raised here in Detroit, lived here. So I'm way up here doing an assembly. And it's a really tough crowd. I walk in, I talk to the principal. I was like, what's your biggest, issue at school? And he's like, meth. I was like, oh.
Okay.
Okay, I was hoping for like bullying.
Bullying might be up. Okay.
But he's like, no, there's nothing to do up in Upper Michigan. And so, they make meth everywhere. I was like, okay, this is wonderful.
So you open up. How many of you?
Yeah. Have watched Breaking Bad. So I start, and my shtick as a speaker, especially in the schools, I don't juggle. I don't look like Ryan Gosling. 50 pounds
Yet.
ago, yes, yet, thank you. I don't skateboard, I don't have that shtick. What I have is stories.
Yeah.
So I tell stories, I weave them into life. And so I go into my best story of all, Chippy, about my best friend in 8th grade and his mom who was vacuuming and accidentally vacuumed up their pet bird. Like she stuck the hose in the cage. And anyway, that's a long story. It's awesome. It's the greatest thing.
Pretty bird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It pretty much that bird got sucked up so fast. Me and Rob come running downstairs. Oh yeah. She ripped open the vacuum and she's wiping off all of the toenails and the hair and the band, what's in the house. And she runs to the sink and puts him under the water and the bird's freaking out. She gets the blow dryer and he's got a bird fro. And then
This poor bird had the worst day ever.
it was amazing.
First there was a tornado and then there was a flood.
It was amazing. So then I go and then I in the story, because they're kids, I say, the bird still wasn't dry. So I went over to the microwave And then I let it pause for a minute and everybody freaks out, you know. You got to be careful with middle schoolers with their abstract. No,
Yep.
they're concrete. So anyways, that's, you know, it's like, I have those kind of stories. So
Yeah.
I launch into my story and I do it so much better than this 11-second version, you know.
I don't know. That
but
was pretty good.
You get the idea. Rob's mom also, this was very challenging when I would visit. She liked to walk around the house naked. So I would knock on the door. Have I ever told you this? Oh my gosh,
your
this is
son's
the
like,
freakiest
"Oh."
thing ever. I'd knock on the door. Rob would be like, hold on. Mom, put some clothes on. It's like, what the hell? So it was horrible. So I got stories. So I'm launching into this story and the crowd is tough. I mean, it's just like, you know, when you're like, ooh, okay.
The entire room is a dead zone.
Yeah. You're
Nothing's
like,
landing.
Nothing's connecting.
Yep.
It's first of all, it's a gym. When you speak in gyms, you know, you got the echo and you got the bleacher noise. And
Yep.
so you got to really get them honed in. You got to know how to focus the energy into thought. And I get to like almost to the punchline and I see this young lady like right in, you know, probably 6 rows up and she's sitting there and she's like engaged and her boyfriend's right next to her. And the boyfriend's like sort of engaged, but then he leans over and he buries his head in her chest.
Oh my God.
And for me as a speaker, I was like, you know what? I can't keep up. Like, you know, like, I guess you're not going to pay attention anymore. Like, that's like, you know, there's nothing I can do to keep up with that. So thanks for listening for a few minutes. Anyways, so, you know, that was my life for, you know, a long, long time was, you know, speaking those. So the ability to say yes and pushing yourself out of the comfort zone, it's taught me so much. And it's helped me just be me when I walk in the rooms because I don't want to like go too far, but it takes a lot to get me really rattled before an engagement now.
Yeah, knock on wood for sure. You got an engagement in like an hour.
Yeah. You know, just last week in Charleston, I was speaking to a group of financial advisors from First National Bank of Pennsylvania, and I tried this new AI slideshow.
Oh,
and,
yes.
You know,
yes.
And it was working great and everything, and then it just went out because the hotel Wi-Fi was crap. And, you know, just real calmly, I just had to walk around the projector and close the window. And then stupidly, I'm a creative type. So I'm a 4 on the Enneagram. I got pictures all over my walls. You know, I'm like the unicorn of like emotions and feelings. And my screensaver is just plastered with stuff. And I can hear people gasp because I'm in a room with like financial people who are organized and detailed. And so my screen pops up on the screen.
Yeah, your wallpaper.
And they're like, and I'm like, I know, it's a little bit of a mess. So I quickly open up my backup PowerPoint. I'm like, but even in that situation, you know, I think all those years of putting myself in situations that like, okay, I got to learn how to do this. You know, I've got to get the experience. I got to get the reps. You know, I grew up playing baseball, swinging a bat, you know, to get better. You keep swinging. And so for speakers who are like, well, I want to wait to get on the, you know, the stage with this, you know, I'm like, I love how you teach. And I love, you know, through the podcast, what you're doing to point people towards there's nothing, this will help you so much get ready for those engagements. And who knows who's going to listen to this that will go, oh, I could ask them to be on my, you know, my thing. So I absolutely love that. So that's why I got into podcasting. And we just got to a place those of you who are watching, I keep pointing to my son.
He's in the studio with us live.
Because he edits them. He does all the graphics.
I saw him taking pictures of Richard's setup. I'm like, yes, let's jam.
Yes. Yeah. We talk tech. And so, you know, we've just learned a ton on the way and trying to figure out how we can just kind of keep providing help and value and content, you know, to listeners. And so if there's anybody listening that's like, yeah, I need to do that, then just start.
Yeah.
Like you don't need, it's amazing. Someone came to us recently and was like, well, I priced all this out and I was like, you really could just put up your iPhone.
It's what we did.
Absolutely.
Our first episode's like this janky iPhone video, and I don't know what the audio sounds like. And like this whole setup that if you can't see behind the camera, I told Jason when he came in, I'm like, our studio's like a mullet. It looks great in the front. But the back is not even you should see this room right now, but we're just going.
That's right.
You know?
You got to keep moving.
And when you first started your podcast, what did you start with? Did you start with just your phone?
No, we had a buddy who had okay DLR, but it wasn't, you know, anything special.
Yeah.
And he would bring his little, you know, audio recorder, and we had one mic that he had. And then Dennis is amazing. He's a great friend. But then we would wait for him to edit it, you know, and then we'd figure out what the heck do we do for the next one, you know? That's how we started, you know, and now we're at a place where it's kind of a machine. We pump out, we do actually do 2 episodes a week.
Okay.
So we just kind of went that route because, you know, I read Gary Vee's latest book and I watch him and I was like, okay, I love the side with social media and technology that says, just be consistent, even if it's 1 a month, 1 a week. Just do the absolute, because absolutely, the less you do, the better quality. I believe that. But we wanted to flood the interwebs. We wanted to.
You gotta be unignorable.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, so much of our business, because we're helping leaders, I just wanted to be able to put so much content out there that we could look back and say, hey, we've got this massive library. You know, how can we help you? So that's kind of how we started. It was like a tiny little corner of our living room. You know, like the wall was horrible.
Oh, we were in our
lighting.
bedroom.
Oh, it's just awful.
Like
So-
our podcast we did, I was upstairs in my bedroom. And it's like, well, turn the camera this way.
Yep. Yeah.
So, okay, so 160 plus episodes and you're pumping out 2 a week. What is your favorite way to help people? Like you talk to leaders, you talk to banks. I need to introduce you to Tony Child, by the way, because he comes from the same industry. But when you get in front of someone, what's your favorite thing that just, you know, when the light bulb goes off, what's that like moment like for you?
Oh, you know, for me, when they experience that, I mean, it's just the absolute best. Definitely helps you keep going when you're like, okay, we've done 100 episodes and we thought our downloads would be here and they're here, you know, and how
Says
come
everyone.
yeah. How come they haven't blown up? And I bet these analytics are wrong.
I can't be right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, for me, one of our faithful listeners will shoot me a text every Wednesday morning. He's got to drive downstate and he, you know, shoots the thing and he's like, I love that moment. I'm like, oh my goodness. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, when someone finds value or I'm able to connect people to amazing leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. You know, we had a father-son on our podcast 4 or 5 months ago, and this guy's a doctor, and his son was born, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. He was totally nonverbal, highly autistic. They didn't know it then because it was 20-some years ago, and could not communicate. And everybody told him, nope, your son's never going to amount to anything.
Yeah.
He's always going to be a human vegetable. And he said, no way. His wife also happened to be like a biochemist.
Well,
So
that's handy.
They're quite a duo.
Wow.
But they went to town for 10 years and just tried to hack the problem. And after 10 years, he's 23, the son. He's not fully verbal yet, but he's a savant. And so
They always are.
At 3 years old, he read his first book. You know, I mean, it's just
Like Johnny Five style?
Oh, I mean, just yeah, and you know, like the Mike Ross from Suits, just memorizing every word.
Yeah.
And now, when him and his dad, the episode's a little hard to listen to because the way that they communicate now is they've created this punch card system that his dad will sit next to him and just the son will just punch the letters in the punch card and his dad actually says it real time as it's happening.
No way.
It inspires the crap out of you.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, and we have 2 kids with autism who are not to that level, but at levels at times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, will I ever be able to get through? Will I have a conversation with them that I feel like we're connecting? And the 23-year-old son said some things to me in that podcast where I was like, how in the world? It's like he had a camera in our household.
Yeah.
But he just knows the autistic world so powerfully. So I get to introduce like people to amazing leaders like that. I mean, that's just for me, like, you got to hear and I've always loved connecting people and connecting people to people because it's like, I mean, it just helps the world go round. I mean, it's just amazing when that happens. So for me, that's been one of the absolute joys. We're in a season now with the podcast where now we're trying to figure out how to, we haven't done a great job of figuring out how to monetize it. You know, sponsors, we've got a couple of people who are, you know, potentially interested in like, what does that look like? And so, yeah, we're taking steps to kind of, you know, figure all that stuff out, but it's given us this wealth. Somebody challenged me maybe about episode 75. They're like, what are you doing all this for? You know, it's like your podcast isn't going to be Joe Rogan, so why keep doing it?
Oh, come on now.
And I've always had imposter syndrome. I wasn't super academic. School was difficult.
Well, it's meant for one brain type.
Yeah, it was. If it was get up and do a presentation, I like let's go. All the smart kids wanted me for the first time. You know, we want Jason on our team. So I've always kind of played in deficit. So I've always read everything. I've always researched everything. I want to be an expert in that area. And so with Speak With People, we're 2 years old. And, as I'm teaching people to communicate, I don't have a master's in communication. I don't have a PhD in social communication, or, I just interviewed a PhD from London who has, 2 PhDs in communication. I mean, the guy is just more brilliant than I'll ever be.
Well, and then everything's more true because of the accent,
Oh, it's so good. I just sat
Can you
there
say
listening
something else,
to
please?
him. Yeah. I've had a couple. There was one woman, Julianne Harrington, who was from France. And I was like getting lost and like just listening to her. She's like, do you have another question? I was like, no.
Can you read this recipe though?
Yeah. But this guy challenged me. He's like, what are you doing with all this? And I was like, I'm getting an MBA. I worked on an MBA about 10 years ago. I wasn't able to finish. I'm like, I'm finishing my MBA because I'm having the most amazing conversation. It's like every single week I'm having, conversations with leaders who, I normally wouldn't like just be in community with.
Yeah.
But because now I have a podcast, people are emailing me left and right. Can we bring
Isn't
your
that
podcast?
the best?
Can we get my author on your podcast? And I'm like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been amazing for me.
Well,
And-
how are you monetizing it? Because I love to monetize the podcast in terms of the right people. First of all, I get to meet the most amazing individuals, have them in my home,
Yep.
and do all this. And then the right people come in, and I'm always like, hey, get on. I have this podcast database, has 700 shows on it now.
Jeez.
And people come in and they get the database, and then maybe they'll work with me and maybe they won't. That's fine. But that's how I find the people that I work with.
Yep.
So how do you what do you do for people? Like, how do you make money doing this aside from sponsors? But like when you have clients, what are they buying from you?
Yeah. Well, right now, we're pointing them to coaching. So I do leadership communication coaching. So say a leader says, because our target audience for the podcast is the 34-year-old financial advisor who just wants to kick ass with his client communication skills, who wants to learn how to, when he stands up in front of a regional room, wants to be able to sound like he knows what he's talking about. That's kind of my target audience for the podcast. So I'm pointing them to, we've got some, couple of, free great resources that are, easy downloads. Hey, here's this resource with 40 of the best questions to connect with, other leaders. We wrote a course called the Presentation Blueprint. And so for me, as I've just, I'm a clarity nut. I'm speaking about clarity tomorrow in Dallas. Very quickly, you can, when someone's speaking, if they have a clear mindset and a clear roadmap with where they're taking you with their presentation. And it's hard. And for so many people who are nervous when they speak, so much of it is their preparation. If you know how to prep the right way, you know how to prepare the right way, and you have a blueprint, it takes away some of that nerves because it takes it off you, putting it on your audience so you're absolutely clear. So we created this course called the Presentation Blueprint that it's a 6-step, walks them through from beginning to end, really how to level up their presentation. So it adds this amazing amount of confidence to them, this dose of clarity so their people know, and they're able to captivate a room, whether it's 5 minutes or it's a 45-minute keynote. So I'm pointing them to resources like that. And ultimately, yeah, I would love to coach. I would love to do coaching with them. And so that's what I point them to. So you guys have taught me more because I remember when we talked, you're like, what the hell? Like you gotta think. And I was like, yes. And then I got on the phone with your husband. I was like, all right. Yes. This is so good. So now we're on this end now going, okay, we're really putting some of these things in place so we can do a better job with some of those resources.
Yeah.
I've learned a ton, even with my keynotes. I've learned from a ton of speakers about, when's the right time to talk about, future stuff during your keynote.
Sure.
How do you use your slides in a way that, shows them, like for instance, today in a couple hours, Mountain America Credit Union, I'll be talking to 15 of their best advisors.
Yeah.
They're top performing financial advisors. And so one of my points, my 3 skills that I talk through in my talk are graciously share your presence. So as leaders, so often we're rushed, we're checking our phone, we're all over the place. Our body language is sending a whole other signal. So I'm like, share your presence with people. Second, we ask exceptional questions. So often we ask the most boring questions in the history of the world. Like parents, we ask our kids, how was your day? Good.
Meh, it's fine.
Right. Those are horrible questions. Did Mrs. Dandelion, paint something today? No, she doesn't paint. It just gets the conversation going.
Yeah.
So I try to teach these advisors how to ask the right questions. So we have a resource. So I've interviewed 100 advisors over the last 2 years, and I've asked them, what are the best questions that you ask, to build trust with your clients? And so we put that together in a resource.
Oh, sick.
So then a QR code comes up, and I'm like, hey, just like a little pause. If you want to take this further, we can't go through all the questions, but this is the 40 best questions in 5 different categories of your relationship.
I love that.
And then I move on, and we
Yeah.
let it hang there for a minute so they can. And the last one in Charleston, about 30%, 35% of the room so far has, signed up. So then they're into our system, and then it shoots them into a funnel that kind of starts painting the picture of what would happen if you had a coach in your life that were pushing you, asking. So that's the kind of route we're learning.
I got to come see you speak, man.
Wow, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. You know what I really want to do? I have met so many incredible individuals just like you who know how to speak from stage, and they know how to teach people to speak from stage. Richard, I haven't shared this idea with you, but here it is.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Here's
Richard's
another-
the implementer. I'm like, let's do all the things, right? So we host speaker competitions.
Oh, yes.
Right. We've got one
yes.
coming up in just a couple weeks. What I want to do for the next one is have not just one day, but multi-day, and have people like you. And I've got Dan Clark in my phone, and
wow.
he'll be, he'll come to whatever I ask. He's such a generous guy.
Wow.
But what if all of those amazing people, you and me, and maybe Hope Zavara, who's Pete Vargas's MC, and Dan Clark, what if we were the judges panel on this competition? And all of these different perspectives,
Yep.
like Tony Child should be there too. All of these different
Yep.
perspectives, and someone can say your body language and this and your tonality. Because this pressure cooker, when people are speaking on stage and we can give them their scariest experience,
Yes.
so that nothing else is
Oh,
scarier.
I love that.
Right?
Oh, I love that. Yes.
I want to be the one that makes them pee their pants so
Yep.
that they're confident on every other
Yep.
stage. And
Yep.
all of us are on this panel.
Oh, I love it.
How fun would that
love
be?
it.
Can we
I love
make
it.
that?
I would.
I think it would be really cool to do that rather than like a competition style, but more like a workshop style.
Yes, the
It's like-
competition aspect gets people
Yeah.
there, but the workshop is what
But it's like
actually is
people
the best part.
pay to come to this workshop and practice their presentation and get feedback from some of the best speakers in the world.
How incredible would that be?
I love it. I love it.
Can we do
I
that?
love it.
Can that be a thing?
I'm always in if you email me.
Let's
like whatever
go.
it is. Like what are
Let's
we
freaking go.
Like what are we doing?
Watch out for it,
it's
guys.
well, I had a guy on my podcast, Kevin Stamper, in 2019 or 20. He took number 2 in Toastmasters in the world.
Wow.
And so he wanted to just get better 5 years ago, so he started with Toastmasters, which
Yeah.
I've never done Toastmasters.
All my students
Shout
have,
out to
but I
Toastmasters.
haven't.
I haven't either.
I've heard wonderful things
Yeah,
about it, though.
yeah.
How
really
funny
should
is
go-
it that the guy behind the camera is the only one that's done Toastmasters?
I do like toast, but I've never done.
I've considered myself a master of toast.
I
But
mean, I make a mean toast. But when I was talking to Kevin, we did a great episode on my podcast about finding the golden critique.
yeah.
Because if you can get to the place in your leadership communication where you want to hear that critique from people, because here's the reality. Most of us who speak, I find 90% of the people we talk to in the audience will never step on stage and communicate, and they're critiquing us. So, okay, I'll take critique from everybody. I'll learn what I can, but I'm also going, okay, John, I love you to death, but you've never experienced this, So people like that, to be able to go, oh, wow, you're going to hear my keynote, and it makes you prepare at a level that's like, all right, I'm going to kick this. I'm going to knock this out of the park.
Yeah.
I absolutely
Yeah.
love it.
I think that's great. One of my favorite things to do is, and we do this every Wednesday night in our modules, is we do this peer critique. And I think it's so incredible to have people like public speakers that are experienced do this, but I also want to hear the critique from the audience, which is a rare thing because that's your audience.
Yep.
You should know what your
Yep.
audience thinks
Yep.
of you.
Yep.
You should know what they understand based on what you said, right?
100%. 3 times I've tried to joke. 3 times. Zach, my producer and son,
Ooh, you just got promoted.
yeah, all right, has told me recently, you can't do it anymore. So I start talking about, 90% of our day we communicate.
Yeah.
What if we did the James Clear thing and 1% of our day, atomic habits, or 1% of our week, we just look at a communication skill and we say, okay, this week I'm not going to interrupt when I'm talking with someone. Okay. And I talk about then Tom Brady. And so I moved to Tampa when Tom Brady moved to Tampa. I've always loved Tom Brady. He's probably number 1 in my man crush list. I mean, I've just have, Tom Brady, Darius Rucker, Ryan Gosling. I mean, they're just
Krasinski. You can't forget
he's in
him.
top 5.
All
He's
right,
in top 5.
All right. Sorry. Work your way up, John.
Pre and post The Office. Because he's kind of a little guy. Post, hello, John.
You're like, hey,
hey, buddy.
what was that? Gosh, now I can't think of the show that he did, the Tom Clancy. Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan. I think maybe his best stuff was when he did the Good News Show. Do you remember that during COVID?
I remember that, yeah.
Anyways, so, you get to a place. So I'm talking about Tom Brady, and I talk about how a veteran would challenge him his first year because he was seventh on the depth chart, right? And he would just go out there. He had one snap, and he's like, this doesn't matter. It's one snap. And a veteran got in his face and was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, you're a professional football player. Treat that one snap like it's 2 minutes left in the Super Bowl. And Tom Brady was like, okay. And so he just gave it his all. He ran out there like he was number 1 on the depth chart. And then from there, went from 1 to 7 to 10. Drew Bledsoe went out. Now he's got 7 rings. Many of us believe he's the GOAT, but he treated all of those things. What if, as communicators in our workplace during the day, if you do presentations, wherever you're communicating, you look for those kind of ways to not just, say, I'm just going to dial it in, but you're actually going to put in the work, and go, okay, I'm going to go do those things. And I love what you do with those competitions and possible workshops, because that helps communicators get better. I mean, it just helps them.
So I want to shift gears for a second and I know that we got to respect your clock, but I want to ask this question, and there's a little bit of vulnerability from my part, because yesterday, Richard and I had a conversation with our son, right? And this is on the heels of our daughter, who's our oldest, just moved out, and we met her boyfriend for the first time. And this stuck out to me. She did something, I think it was a big burp, which I'm very good at. Many of you don't know this about me. But she belches in the living room, and her boyfriend looks at her and then looks at me, because I think I let one out too. And he's like, that's where you get it. And I'm going somewhere with this. Hang with me. So this hit me in terms of my conversation with my son last night, because as parents, we won't often see the results of our communication, and it's definitely not instantaneous, if
100%.
at all.
Yep.
But those most crucial conversations, I told my husband last night, I said, the most important conversation we've had today, with all the business meetings and all the JVs we've had and all the people we've met, the most important conversation we had today was with that boy. How do you tie this all in with your family? Like with communication and professionally and being on stage? You've got your son here, which is incredible, but tell me your perspective on that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I was blessed to grow up in a family that they communicated well and they loved well. My mom grew up in the city of Detroit, abusive parents. Yeah, I mean, just horrendous. You want to talk about the most horrendous? She did. Beat up all the time. Like, and so she would say, as a little girl, she would pray to God, someday if you give me a family, I will take care of them so well.
Wow.
Whew, so fast forward all these years, I've got parents who I adore. They're just my heroes, and they followed us to Florida. And they are heroes to my kids. And so we do dinner every Friday night, and you do those kind of things. And so as leaders, it's so great because, we've got to drive income. We got to drive business. It's so easy to just pedal the metal all the time. And in a previous life, I was actually a pastor.
No kidding.
And so I have officiated many, many funerals. And so I've stood up front and I've walked families through the grieving process. And it's amazing to me how many times older children don't want to say anything at their dad, especially their dads. Moms maybe more. And not because they're overcome with grief, but because they just hated the person. I can't even tell you how many times somebody would come up I say, hey, do you want to say something about your dad? And they're like, why the hell would I say something about him? He never cared one bit about me. So as leaders, if you want the kind of life that, like you talked about with the mullet, with the studio, it looks all great in the front. If you want the kind of life that looks great on Instagram, you're crushing it at work, everything's going that way, but then you've left your family far behind, then don't communicate. Don't learn how to communicate, because it's not just going to happen for you. You've got to push yourself all the time to have those crucial conversations. There's the list out there, the 7 most critical things kids need to hear. You could kind of look at them, throughout the years, especially as leaders, as communicators. Start there with your family. It's just an amazing process what will happen. And then, you get to a place where my 16-year-old's texting me all week. She's back at home because we've been traveling, and it's the best conversations in the world. And then I have text conversations with my 10-year-old who has autism and has a little different communication style. And I'll be like, Kai, how's your day? And he'll just flat out say, Not right now. I'm kind of busy to text.
Yes, sir.
And I'm like, okay. So not to lose sight of, yes, we're driven. We've got goals and success, but make sure you don't forget that home and family are the absolute best, because I never could build a business without my wife. I, couldn't do all the things that I do without her being the rock and traveling. And so that's why it's so special then for me. Like, I know my wife's love language. I know my kids' love language. When I talk to my 22-year-old son, I talk to him much differently than my 20-year-old son. They have a totally different love language. So I think I'm going around in circles for you there, but it's just so incredibly important, especially to speak with our family, because I found when your family communication is healthy, when you get off the road and you can't wait to be home and they can't wait for you to be home, everything in your life succeeds. Yeah. But when they don't miss you, nothing is different. You look for ways to get out of there. Now you've got some problems. And so take the step back to go, you know what? No, they're the most important people in my life. I'm going to learn their communication style, their love language, so I know how to communicate to them. And then I'm going to do it. If I could start all over again, I would start journaling. I would have a journal for each of them that they would get when I died, or, at the very end of my life or something like that. That would basically be, an entire journal that I just wrote to them throughout their life. I think of like legacy moments like that. I'm like, ooh, that's the kind of legacy moment, I would love to leave for them, so they knew, like, they never had a doubt that my dad was proud of me. My dad cared for me. My dad thought, all those different kind of things. Sorry. This is,
this is the most beautiful part.
So that's that's the part. So leader, do everything you can to pour into your family. And I'm no expert, the last couple of years have been so hard. I came out of a really tough season that just ravaged my soul. I guess that's one way to say it. And I hit some pretty low bottom places, and I was not as good as I needed to be, filling my family's cup with my words and my communication, and I'm coming out of it, and striving towards doing the things that I need to. But I'm on this side of life now. Many of our leaders are. My oldest is 24, 22, 20. Like, the conversations I'm having with them. My son's with me. At times I know he's annoyed by dad because I can't listen to GPS and I get lost, and like, there's just things that happen,
nodding right now.
But this is the most meaningful thing. This is the greatest gift he could give me, so to be able to work together and do those kind of things. So it's really powerful. So anyways, sorry.
Don't be it. That's the most beautiful thing. I saw an Instagram reel the other day that some of those just hit you.
Oh,
right in the feels.
Freaking
right?
Instagram.
Yeah. I know. My daughter sends them to me all the time, and I love it. All of my daughters do. But it said it was a message to. Now I'm going to get me. It was a message to your oldest child that said, "I still had you when I was a kid, and you went through all of my garbage with me.
Yep.
And we grew up together.
Yep.
Thank you for hanging with me." And I was like,
"Yep,
okay, and we're still figuring this out."
Absolutely,
and
absolutely. And the worst thing you can do is play the what ifs. And if I would have done this, if I would have done this, you can't. So live today to the fullest with your kids. Don't let a day go by where you're not, communicating to them how much. I mean, I'm still with my parents. I'm still, texting my dad. He's not a communicator.
Mine
but
either.
I still text and talk and text. My still 48 years old. I'll be 49 on Sunday. Still call my mom 2 or 3 times a week. And I've tried to do that in front of my kids. So maybe a little selfish.
You're like,
so
nudge.
Yeah, like 20 years from now, they'll want to call mom.
Yeah.
And dad. Because I've been around a lot of families throughout the years. I worked with students forever, and I worked with lots of teenagers who never wanted to be home, who never, we just always wanted to create a safe place for a family. So they're like, when they eventually come home from out there, it's like, okay, they can unwind, they can breathe and do all those kind of things. So it's powerful stuff.
I love that. Thank you for that. And
absolutely
glimpse into who you are off the stage and behind the scenes. How do people find you?
Oh, yes. JasonRaitz.com, RAITZ.
And we'll put it in the show notes too.
I thought about changing it to just Jason Raitz, RATES, but no.
Just buy both and have it redirect.
I could do that. My nickname in high school was Special Rates, so I thought about SpecialRates.com. But JasonRaitz.com or SpeakWithPeople.com. I'm on LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Instagram.
All the places.
All the things. Except I tried TikTok. My 20-year-old You would have thought he would be like, get on TikTok. He was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
don't get on TikTok.
No kidding, really.
And then I'm in a business mastermind group and they're all like, you got to be on TikTok. And so I decided to get off TikTok because I can't take it anymore. I can watch Instagram reels, but TikTok, in my own personal opinion, you can cut this out if you want to.
No, leave it.
But like the hate and the just people opening up their phones and just yelling about I'm like, I'm out. I just can't.
I don't watch a lot of TikTok.
I can't do it anymore.
I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I have one of my best friends in the world. She's a Christian mom and runs her family of 6 kids, and she's got 2.5 million followers on TikTok. Right. And, this whole Secret Lives of Mormon Wives just came out, and she's like, that's exactly the opposite of who we are and all this stuff. But she gives me hope because she's putting the little glimmers into the platform for people like you and me who want to see that. And like I said, I don't watch it a lot, but she's teaching me how to show up on TikTok so that we can leave something there in the middle of the mud.
There's great ways to influence people and some great business opportunities because brands are noticing. People are noticing.
Oh, she gets crazy brand deals.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put all of that in the show notes.
Awesome.
And one last question.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to ask you this because I thought about this for myself, and I was like, what Jason would say. If you could interview anyone living or dead.
Oh, jeez.
Let's just go dead. If you could go back in time and interview anyone on your show, who would you pick?
Oh, that's unfair. I already start thinking of the categories.
Yeah, right?
Like, I mean, if there's an absolute...
Today, who would you pick? Maybe tomorrow the name would be different, but today, who would you pick?
Yeah, today, who would I pick? Dead. Oh, my goodness. I would absolutely love to interview Walt Disney. Like, it would just be so fascinating to get inside that kind of creative dreamer. Like, what in the world? You read some of the biographies and you're like, wow, this guy like took steps off cliffs for his dream and vision. I mean, I think Billy Graham would be the other one. I'd love to just, you think about how in the heck did all that happen? I mean, he ended up influencing the world with no social media.
Right?
With nothing.
Yeah.
In the 50s, he's in a tent, and, whatever your faith is, regardless, as a communicator and as a, I mean, the world, right? I mean, they just put a statue of him in the U.S. Capitol.
Oh, yeah. And Unbreakable is all about his influence and all of that.
So that's who it would. Now, baseball, it would be Ted Williams.
Ah.
So we got different categories, we'll be there. So that would be it.
That would be awesome.
I do have to say thank you. I mean, you really have been such a positive force in my life. I mean, really from afar, right? Because we've just kind of met online and met you guys and listening to your podcast, following your email, what you've done, even to push my business, teach me as a speaker. I am unbelievably grateful for. So thank you for doing that for so many people.
You're an incredible friend in my back pocket and now side pocket. I don't have back pockets, but you're right here.
Love it.
And I'm grateful that you came on the show. I'm so grateful that you took extra time out of your clearly booked schedule to make this a priority. And I hope that we get to do more of this. I know that we have more stuff to build in the future and a lot of lives to bless with the coalescence of everything that we're doing. And I love that you brought Zach here.
Love it.
And I appreciate you for being here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, you guys got to go check out his stuff. It's all in the show notes. Jason, thank you for being on the show today. And we will see you on the next episode of the Marianne Hickman Show.
Hey, what's up? Marianne Hickman here. Hey, listen, I hope you enjoyed that episode. We have some pretty amazing speakers on my podcast and, of course, more to come. If this is something that you enjoyed, guys, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. You guys know what to do. I love your comments, and I respond to every single one of them personally, not a bot or an agency. So if this is something you're enjoying, tell me about it. Tell me your gold nuggets. I want to hear from you. But here's the most important thing I want you to laser in on. I told you about the podcast database. You've probably seen me post about it all over social media. I want to make sure that you get it. So here's what I want you to do. Go to mariannehickman.com/database. Once you put all of your information in there, I'm going to send you the document. You request access to it. Boom, it's unlocked. Once you're in there, my rule of thumb is to apply to 10 podcasts a month. It's very digestible. It's very easy to do. And the database gets updated twice a week. So I want you constantly checking back in there for the next podcast that fits your audience. Thank you for being here. Much love to you, and we'll see you in the next episode.